Hi, I am Say, and I'm with my secondary interviewer, Brandon Ace Arces, and I am with my interviewee, Mr. Francisco Escobar.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so what? Oh, and sorry. So Mr. Escobar, what do you like to do when you're not a teacher?
That's a great question. I enjoy roller skating. That's like been a new hobby of mine. I've been going to Williamsburg because like there's piers. I've been going to the gym, running, biking, and hanging out with friends. Having also a social life amongst the professional life.
Nice. For those who don't know, what subject do you teach in a common?
Yeah, I teach high school math, specifically algebra, for freshmen or ninth graders.
Now, Mr. Escobar, how do you go about your way about teaching?
I like to make jokes. I'm sure you all have heard some of them before relating to functions and x's, inputs and outputs. It's not really about necessarily, of course, I like to be funny with it, but it's more I want you to think about what I'm saying. Islands that are separated from the main government, but have their own cultural and customary ties. So it's a very local community. It was very great to see such nature and such great abundance, because here in New York City is such a city life with various buildings and traffic and such. This was more on an island of various waters. You can hear birds, you can hear the waves. It's very calming and peaceful, and something always great to appreciate to wake up to.
Another question? Do you have any questions? Okay. I have another question. When were you adopted?
Yes, so for those who don't know, I was adopted when I was 2 months old. Even a backstory of that was that my older brother, Alejandro, he was born in 91, and that is when he was adopted. And so my adopted parents, adopted him. 2 years later, I was born, came into the picture, and then the whole story is that they wanted the two brothers come together. And so he is my actually half brother, but we've been living with each other all my whole life. We still talk daily. He currently works at Apple, and now in Austin, Texas, at the headquarters over there.
Now, my other question is, do you know your adopted mother and your adopted father? Not adopted father. Your birth mother and birth.
Yeah. I don't know about my birth mother because when I was adopted, the agency and ties that kind of just cut down and shut down. So there's really no connection that I could find who my birth mother is. And as for my birth father, I wouldn't know. He's not even on my birth certificate.
Oh. And do you have any questions for Mr. Escobar?
I realize each time you come back to work, school teaching, I realize sometimes you're disorganized somewhat. So do you have something that you be doing at home that caused you to do something else other than? Yeah.
Can you ask the question again?
So I realize you've been disorganized more often. Like yesterday, we had to help you. So is there do you have some family or somebody you need help with, or outside work or something?
No, I think what you're referring to is just those few. There's two homeworks that just weren't graded. Or does it seem like I'm disorganized in what other way?
I'm talking about the files, work itself.
Oh, okay, because we did that whole thing. Yeah. I think it was just I guess this half of the semester, just placing everything in this folder, not by numerically, just in itself. So it was just I have various other aspects I wanted to get through, and so I kind of minimized the organizing aspect of it. That's something I did very well. The first semester we were together. That's something I need to take care of as we conclude quarter 2 and the rest of the year.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you live alone?
Right now I actually do, just because, again, for those who might not know, I own a house in Flatlands, so I'm always searching for roommates. I had roommates for the beginning of the year, but one moved out because of financial ties. He was let go in the middle of his work week, so he had to move out. And then another one moved out to be with his girlfriend, and so now I'm looking for more. I'm gonna see one later this week to put to be a roommate, and then another one, a couple, also be interested in being roommates as well.
How old are you?
I am 29. How old did I look, or how old he thought I was?
I don't know. I can't say.
Isaiah, what do you think?
23.
23? I'm glad to hear that.
Where did you get your master's degree from?
Yes, so I got my master's at Teachers College, Columbia University. And I also got my bachelor's at St. John's University. So coming from being raised in Massachusetts, I wanted to move out of Massachusetts and be in New York. And so going to St. John's was like one of the reasons why I came to New York, and then staying and being in Columbia because it was like a kind of an upgrade from St. John's, no disrespect, but it was just like a way where I'd be able to challenge myself and see a new part of New York City, because the like Upper West Side, Harlem is much different from Queens.
What is this first school that you taught at?
It was a school in Williamsburg. We can just keep it at that. Yeah.
Did you used to live in Williamsburg?
At that time, I was living in Bushwick. And so that was very interesting because it was like a regular apartment. It was very close quarters. I had like 2 roommates near where I live, and it was just nice to like be in that type of adult aspect where you're literally meeting strangers and living with them, not knowing who they are, and try and make your best out of your living circumstance.
So I'm referring back to your YouTube video you posted about the rap.
Yeah, that'd be funny as always.
So after that, I had some suspicions that you may have to be into some artists. I have numerous, so I ain't gonna mention them. So I want you to tell me which one you're into.
Yeah, and so even with that video, I was marrying DMX, who was someone who was very famous for spelling words in his raps. Even his name, like DMX, right? And so as far as like rappers I've always looked up to, growing up was 50 Cent, Eminem. Later in my adult life was Tupac, Big L, Master Ace, and I mean, yeah, sure, Biggie and Big Pun. Have these names, like, do you recognize the names I'm sharing as a different generation?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Referring back to the rapping and all that. Remember when the part where you said you look up to rappers? Had you ever dreamed of being one or seen yourself as being one before?
Yeah, at one point when I was in high school, I used to write rhymes that would parallel like similar songs. So instead of like the real Slim Shady, I like the real like Francisco or something like along those lines. And I'll just like change some words here or there.
And what encouraged you to be a teacher?
That's always interesting. I think I couldn't be a teacher. So I think the reason has just developed over time. I think when I was in high school and in college, I knew I liked school. I knew I liked algebra and math in general. Even in middle school and high school, I'd be doing math problems on the side because I didn't really want to understand English and read books. So I'd be doing that to pass time. And then overall in college, like you like learn your philosophies, you learn your theories, you learn like what is important to you as an educator. And from that point, I was more like interested in how we as like melanated people have been like treated over the past like 500 years, from like colonization, integration, and what have those been effects on an educational basis. And so where I come in as a teacher, particularly algebra, which is like the most failed course this year and for decades and centuries, is that kind of not only like eliminate the disparities between melanated and non-melanated people, but also just see like a different viewpoint of it. So I mean, this unit was all about like relationships Like that's why the jokes of like how many X's and Y's, why you break up with someone and why you broke up with them, because just having a strong understanding like these are various aspects of relationships we could have, because these people may not be as unified as we would like to be. And then going into units like the other units, when we deal with parabolas, you probably could be more talking about businesses and the importance of having black-owned businesses and thinking of ourselves as entrepreneurs and owners instead of just workers, and trying to fulfill a working class and more of a competitive employer class.
I'm here so I am welcoming a new cast member into this little podcast / interview with.
Yeah, my name is Christopher. I've had him last year. I just want to ask, do these guys show a verbal dislike towards you guys? Like, do these guys right here, like, do these guys show you like a verbal dislike? Because they seem like they have a. They seem like they pretty much don't like you. With their
I think they show admiration in various ways, because even with this interview, like it's great to hear that Brandon's taking notice of like my functionality as a person, as a teacher, because that like awareness is like commendable, because if he didn't care, he wouldn't take notice. Like, oh, he's just another figure in my head, right? I mean, they both have their own sauce, and Mente too. She got her own sauce and her own degree, sharing her questions and interacting. She knows both of them do very well in our class. One, I would appreciate writing all the notes, but for the most part, like again, it's like I don't take it as like personal disrespect, because again, I know how they perform in class. I know how they can improve, and I know the potential. And if I was to say anything to the parents, there would be more positives than negatives.
All right. What's the worst thing they've ever done to get sent out?
I don't think.
Not those two, but like any freshman in general.
Looking at you right now.
We all know.
As far as the 9th grade goes, I mean, I think just collectively, just constantly being off task is something that we should really keep in mind as something as a big thing, because it shows to me that you're not interested in your own education, or you're just not valuing what's in front of you when someone like me trying to show you how this can be valued. Now, if there's like a miscommunication or like difference of viewpoints of this, then I can understand like why someone would not be engaged. But it's also important to know like this is the reality we live in right now, and for us to have a change reality, we have to go through what we have now to then get there. So I mean, I think for those who've seen like what Black Panther, either the first one or the second one, like it's dealing with societies that are separate from European colonization, right? And so when you look at the people who have like navigating between both spaces, you can see the difficulty of being in both, opposed to just being in the other. And so this is something that I keep in mind of as we progress in the 21st century is like what of our own can we own, whether that's land, resources, distribution, just because that is where like the power, the money, the finances, and the freedom rely in for not just your own individual sovereignty, but all collective.
So I realized we've been doing something new lately, which is this VR thing. So I understand trying new things is pretty impressive overall, but I want to know the real reason why you chose to try to do this VR map.
Oh yeah, very good. So virtual learning has been a new thing through Prism. It's something that like someone like above, like in our. We got the funds to do it. The whole advocacy for it is because students can learn visually a bit better. There's some hands-on activity. It's more than just writing down on a piece of paper and trying to regurgitate information. Now you're learning through an experience, and whether that experience is in Miami, in the snowy mountains, or even outer space. These are just things where you can just broaden your horizons, where you may not be able to have the finances to like go to the moon, but you can at least have the opportunity and visual to see what it looks like, as well as we can be within the time frame of a school day.
Back in your time, like say when you were in school, practically in the same place we were, well, we are now,
Yeah.
I should say. So the things we're doing right now, would you really want that, or would you like the way you had it before,
Like how I was taught.
Yeah.
So you're asking me like, would I have liked the way I was taught to you all?
My real question here is like the way you're being taught when you're younger. Like,
Yeah.
Would you rather that, or would you rather the way we're being taught?
I think that like the way it's like a complex question is because there are a lot of like back information that we use. So like, actually no, I think at the end of the day maybe probably how I was taught, but I also use that in what we do with you all. It's not learning math is still universal, whether or not it's 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years from now. 3x plus 5 equals 10 is still going to be the same unknown variable and value. I think the only difference is it like things of like nature of like I started at 9 a.m. We had our own like Subway type of buffet sandwich shop, so we actually had like really nice food to be eating. But again, I was also in a very localized small school versus what you all have, which is like 5 schools. So like there's like an institutional disparity within that because people feed hundreds of thousands of children using cold food versus like 500 or 300 using like warm food, because you can preserve warm food at a smaller capacity than a raw food, than cold food.
Do you really like math? Like do you really love math? Like with a passion?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm at a point where, I mean, even the beginning of college where I was learning how to teach math and how to learn even complex aspects of math, I was always just visualizing how math is in my real life, just at a generic fun and that's creative. That's something I always try to strive for, is creativity and just originality. And so going into going to the profession is like, now how can make it like, how can you see what I'm seeing as best as I can. And so it's not necessarily I want you to like love math, but know that there is love in math, and that all things saying is very intentional, is very strategical from every time and place. So like whatever you may be feeling now, it's like I understand what you're feeling now, but think about what you're going to be feeling in 3 months from now when we're into June and May. And those things are very intentional too. And so with math itself, there's numbers. I constantly find ways to even use what I've been learning from teaching you to try and learn my own like professional or personal career, whether that's saving money, saving time on like my task system, or just like just balancing how to interact with different people, right? Because not everybody may like jokes, like I say in math. Just like as much as just like any relationship, you may not like someone may not like jokes in the relationship. So I find different ways to navigate different people, just like try doing class as well as like my personal life.
All right. What would you teach other than math?
History.
All right.
My question is. My question is for you. Did you go to school in New York or in a different?
Massachusetts.
Huh? No, I didn't. Ask it. We already asked him.
Alright, so here's one that you may answer then everyone else. So
Same question.
So school. Overall, most of us probably here just like school, but we're doing it just because we know we may need it or we're enforced to. So did you have that feeling like you were forced to do it and like you realize you need it, or did you do it out of passion, like school and all that?
Yeah, I always like try to self-reflect on that aspect too, because I feel like with that in mind, I was completely oblivious to that, because I was just doing it, doing my best, and I never thought of it as like a negative thing. Why I had my moments of negativity with schooling was because I was in special ed, and there I was kind of singled out because you're the sped kid, right? And that was mainly in middle school. So I'd be late to my academic skills classes. I didn't want to be there. Like you always be looked funny, and they always be to each other. And you didn't want to be as necessarily associated because you were with them. So I had to like kind of navigate kind of those two settings. But during high school, like people was just over it. It was like, okay, you're in here, cool. Like you need help and get the best for it. But over time, I got over my IEP to a 504, which is like accommodations but a little less, and now to completely be independent. But I still use my 504 when I'm taking tests to be a teacher or to have licenses, so I still get extra time, and I do still get provided rubrics even as an adult. And I'll be taking another test to get that accommodation as well.
Okay, yes, here you go.
Yeah, so I realized that some of these people here, these guys over here, they say they look like they hate you. So is there any reason why they hate you? Because I'm curious.
I mean, that's a better question for them. I think from just a general aspect, people just don't like math. And not only I'm that guy teaching math, I'm also that guy trying to prevent more wrongdoings from being wrong. Right? As much as I would love for you all to be socializing and bonding and having lunch for an hour time, so those feelings don't have to be constrained within the class period. Because again, then we're here for learning. I try to improve on math skills. So you walk into college classes, A, not knowing nothing, 2, not being fun from other people, or for knowing very little, 3, not taking college courses for thousands of dollars of a course you took as a freshman. Because when we talk about like black and brown communities, there's a big low retention rate and very remedial courses in college. And so having to combat that of like very young people who may not have like contextualized or understand that and have other priorities, then I can understand the differences. But again, like I think through communications, like you now know why I'm here, not necessarily who you are right now, but who you are in 4 or 5 or 6 years.
You guys want to ask any more questions?
How do you feel about oppression?
Pressure.
Oppression. How do you feel about oppression?
Oppression? What's that like?
Oppression, like when people struggle due to like white people.
Oh, oppression.
Racial
Okay.
oppression.
Yeah, racial oppression. Yeah, it's very unfortunate for those who are being oppressed and marginalized, because that is like the dynamic that we're in. It's something that also I think of even as a capitalist structure, because even if you look at like medical bills in hospitals, like they make money and profit off of those who are being sick, right? If I was a tutor at one point, and I would be making money because students didn't necessarily have their mathematical foundation, so I'd be making money off them not knowing math. Lawyers make money off not knowing, of people getting sued or people doing unjust law things. So I think when there's a systemic, institutional, systematic aspects that are like making these disparities larger and larger and larger, and consistently through the past 500 years, it just shows like how people treating one another. And it's not just like things that are happening in the United States, these are things that are happening across the whole world. But that's not anything to be discouraged about, it's just something to be mindful of, and whether navigating these spaces or creating spaces for your own. And in college, that's why I found like the most time for my affinity groups, because they allow us to have those spaces without being looked down upon, right? So I may not grew up with like bachata, merengue, salsa, and like eating the traditional like Latin American foods, but because I was in those affinity groups, those things have now been accustomed to me, and something I can share about, speak about, and enjoy, and just be part of my everyday life.
How did you find out By Igor Bolitkin.
I asked my parents when I was a young age. Not sure how old, but at the time I was like, when am I?
This may be off topic, but what's your opinion on sushi?
Yeah, I don't eat much of it, but every time I eat California sushi because my brother lived in California and he would always like sushi. But every time I taste California sushi, it doesn't taste very good to me. I'm not the best person to have an opinion on that.
I dislike you now.
So, you have any pets?
No, I had a dog when I was in elementary school, and it died on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's a
and
terrible
so that was
time to die.
Yeah, so that was like, that was a rough part, but it was also like the last time I ever had any pets of myself.
This previous Thanksgiving or
Years ago.
So what, did you like? Did you like do something for his passing, or like? Because I know Thanksgiving was a while back, like a few days back. So did you do anything for his death, like a memorial or something?
Yeah, so I know I spoke about how I was born in Bolivia, but my core roots are Aymaran. I'm an indigenous person of Aymaran people, and so Thanksgiving, although it's like a U.S. holiday, it's something that indigenous people all around are very aware of. And so with that being said, that whole dining between pilgrim and indigenous people, that has been more collaborated and like lied about to like comfort this whole like U.S. White-centered history of that people were just coming together. I again grew up in Massachusetts, and for the past 3 years I went to Plymouth to go see the Day of Mourning festivities over there, where indigenous people will come all together, share speeches, talk about this holiday, what it means to us, and the underlying message is that like it wasn't really a gathering of sorts. It was more of a celebration of the massacre that the Pilgrims did to the Native Americans of Massachusetts, that just continued on throughout history. And so it's more of a day of mourning, and that's like how we phrase it, as a day of mourning. But it's also a time of resilience, a time of like community amongst us indigenous people, because we know where we're at, we know how far we came from, and our similarities are something we keep very prideful. And also just a little tidbit, there's been a prophecy that was like recorded like 500 years ago that there would be indigenous people of the south, which are the Condor people, and indigenous people of the north, the Eagle people, and that one day they will all come together in a peaceful, unified front.
Did you watch Wakanda, the second Wakanda movie?
Yes, I did.
Did you like it?
I liked it a lot.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, one moment in your life, like your entire lifespan, what is one moment you would change?
No more jokes. What moment in my life would I change? I don't think I necessarily change any aspect of my life, because whether it's negative or positive, there's always a lesson learned. There's always something I try to grow from. There's always again, if I didn't do something negative, maybe something worse would have happened to me, or I didn't do something positive, something less would have happened to me. So those things do have tripling effects. What I know is like where I'm at now is a very like calm and peaceful place, and I'm happy where I'm at, professionally, personally, socially, spiritually. It's been definitely a tough road to get there, but it's definitely something well worth, and something I'm very fortunate to be part of.
How do you feel about Rihanna?
Great musician. I'm excited to see her in the Super Bowl. I can't wait for her. Has she had her baby yet?
Yes, she can have a baby.
Nice.
Would you teach algebra too? Because right now Ms. Dreamer is not it, and Mr. Anwar left. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so I think down the line, I would definitely like to change contents to more extensive math course. Algebra 2 would be my forte, just because it's kind of like Algebra 1, but more complex. I get to be teaching juniors who, not necessarily pseudo middle schoolers like freshmen are, or going or testing the waters maybe as sophomores are, but this is like a time period where it's very serious to their academic journey because it's the year that colleges really look at them and see how well they do. But also on the flip side, it's also the time where it's like at this point, you don't know math, and it is what it is at that point. So I've heard that there are students who just like really don't do well because they just lost all hope and focus. But I think that's where like I would just like to try to do my best to re-encourage and re-invite, because especially if I taught them before, I know for this year the juniors I have shared to them like, I've looked to you very highly. I think you've done great things with me. All your teachers should see the potential that I see in you, and I think that's more conversation I could have being a junior and Algebra 2 teacher than I could have as a freshman. Just down the line, because I know the students a little bit more.
You taught him before, right?
Yeah, it was like a cool month or cool half a quarter.
Yeah.
How was he?
He was great. He participated. He did his work. Took his notes.
Kind of hated it though, cause like, yeah.
Okay, so why?
Okay, here. I'll tell you all. Okay, all right. So I'm pretty sure, if not most of the people in this room, hate math, right?
Yeah.
And we all hate math because, like you said, we're not really, we don't like it. It's something that it's just not for us. And also,
Yeah, so I think even looking from like a colonial aspect, people who invented math were African people, and indigenous people, even the Mayans and Incans, they created the concept of zero. So math has always been part of our ancestry. But I guess for the past 500 years, we were forced to not learn how to read, not learn how to do math, because the Atlantic slave trade didn't just take slaves. They took teachers, they took dentists, they took various high, well-respected professions. And then continuously going through the message that you're not going to be learning, and then by generation, you just have a disdain to that, just from a colonial mindset. And so I think now it's just important to be kind of aware of that, and I can see where math is right now. It's not just like how it was learned 500 years ago, because back then math was to build nations and societies. This is more to like do well on a test. And so I think, again, that's why I try to either live it up with jokes or various aspects, because you're not thinking about how much you dislike math. You're not thinking about a joke you disliked. I'd rather you dislike the joke you understand than the math you don't.
I just want to build on to what he said. Most of us don't like math. All right, so I'm in the middle with it. I don't like it. I used to like it, but since I got bored, I just realized the difficulties. But for my career, I plan to be an engineering program, so I'm probably going to need it big time. So overall, I don't think they would. I think some students here know they would need it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a big question. I think a lot of students have asked teachers, but they really got a good answer. So now, since have the ability to answer this question, do teachers talk about students behind students' backs? Like, do they talk about teachers? Like, do teachers just like talk about students? Like,
Yeah, of course.
like, but that would be disgusting.
Like, trying to think. Like, we have meetings about students of like how to improve, what's going on with their lives, and then how we can support them.
But like, not like in a meeting. I'm talking about like just privately, like coworkers, and how they talk about like gossip about us and stuff.
Not that I'm aware of it. I'd be disappointed if it was. I'm not just saying that. Like, there's something going on. I think at most I'd be like, so and so did something really funny today, and that just got me laughing.
I remember hearing from other students that there was a teacher. I'm not sure they were like a Spanish, like I don't know what subject they were teaching, but basically, students and teachers were making fun of this teacher. Mm-hmm. I forgot what their name was.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure like students have made fun of me before.
And teachers.
I don't get your question.
Huh?
I don't understand your question.
Like, how do you, what's the comment? Well, I don't think it was something with like Mr. Amor or something like that. Mr.
I'm not sure.
Do you have anything to comment on that?
Mrs. Anwar?
Yeah.
I mean,
Why
Mrs.
I think
Anwar was not my teacher. I had Miss Davies as my teacher, so I don't know if you know her, but
Yeah, I think what's like important to know is that like your teachers are here to make sure you're learning. Again, this is a social job, a social service. You're interacting with people, whether it's like with different backgrounds or different understandings of why we're here. And so if like tensions do arise, I think that's unfortunately like a natural thing because we're not always on the same page, whether that would be a good thing or bad thing. And it's again, like I think if someone had an off day and they say something negative to a student, I think it's just maybe venting opposed to like completely like, oh, I'm gonna mess up your grade because I don't like you. I think those are two very distinctive things. And I think for me, I never got to that place where I ever like maliciously trying to do something negative to a student, because it's always purposeful for us to do much greater than we are given.
you know, you're there to teach them. But to be honest with you, I think the people I hate the most here are probably the UTC staff because, you know, first off, they're not really there to teach you. They're not anywhere near you, and then they just come up in your face and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be following the directions or something." And you know, it just gets annoying sometimes. And I just don't like them. So this is a statement. You guys got it?
So here's a question for you. So talking about students wise, I ain't that the person that asks whatever they ask me. One thing, like the students the way they are, like behaving in the class. If you're able to change something, like what would you change about it? Like behavior wise, anywhere.
I would change sleeping patterns and hunger issues because I know of a lot of students that are really hungry or they're really tired. So I think if that gets changed, then the overall understanding and welcoming of learning occurs.
How do you feel about world hunger?
So again, it is something that's been going on for hundreds of years because we think of world hunger of like global south countries in the global south or communities that are impoverished within a high countries and states that have a lot of money and finances, but it's just a very unfortunate dynamic because it's usually the same people who look like that who are very hungry.
How do you feel about world peace?
I think it's essential, but it's not an end all be all because there's still always going to be a power dynamic, and it's very beneficial to not necessarily be the oppressor and from being the oppressed, but changing the fact that there is an oppressive system to no longer have one.
Okay, my next question. How do you feel about child labor?
It is against the law. It is not good.
Not in all countries though. Only.
Yeah, I can understand why like some people like even myself I was paid under the table, which meant that I worked at I guess you can say relatively to a bodega during my summers, and they would pay me, but they wouldn't pay me, and I'd be taxed on it, and I'd use that money for summer dates, summer food. And what I want to do during summertime or throughout the school year because I'm making money. I also like clean beaches in the summer, so I work up in the early mornings to do that job, then go do my bodega job in the afternoon, and then if I remember correctly, I would also do like a night job, cleaning dishes. And so my weekends were just as fun as my week, but because I also worked extreme a lot of hours to do so. I may have missed out some friend opportunities, some nights out, but again, I think just building that work ethic and having a stable income for that certain amount of time, because in the school year I'd just be playing soccer. I would just have a different experience and I guess a portfolio of a life in my younger years.
All right, so out the box questions. So right now, as you see, like around the area, it's loud and all of that. So what were you first expecting when you were told about this event happening currently?
So I always, it's not my first like interview with Mr. Mitchell and his students. So I know I'd be speaking with kids. I'd be talking about my life, sharing about my philosophies, and I know like Mr. Mitchell appreciates what I have to share too, because we have like private conversations as well. He knows why I teach too, and it's great to share things I don't normally share in a classroom. Especially with students who I'm teaching.
Real question. So you said you've been in multiple. How many times have you been interviewed? Like throughout?
This is my third.
Third?
I'm very important.
I'll be honest with you. When we got you on this interview, we actually got you on by Mr. Mitchell calling out random, saying, "Oh, who do you want to be on here?" And I actually yelled your name, and I thought you would have get on the